Well, Californians are casting their votes in a special election this November, and we will decide whether or not to redraw our state's congressional districts with a yes or no vote on Prop 50, which is the only item on the ballot. And we're now joined by CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us. You know, current polling shows a majority support the measure. So what's driving these voters?
Hey, Amy, great to talk to you. Here is that current polling and that majority that you mentioned. We're at 62% in favor of Prop 50, but that more important why. Take a look at this. Among the reasons that folks voting yes say that they're voting on the measure is to oppose President Donald Trump. 3/4 of them say that's a reason. So you see the way in which that national focus on voters' minds is playing into this. And with regard to the president in particular, another 7 in 10 say their vote is in part to oppose national Republicans. Of course, a lot of Democrats voting yes and saying that. The other factor here is when I talk about the national versus California issues, here's that breakdown, and these folks who do see it in those national terms, and of course it will have an impact if it swings some districts towards the Democrats. That could affect the entire House makeup. These folks are voting heavily in favor, so that's one of the driving factors behind the vote, Amy.
And, you know, Anthony, some argue that redistricting would shift political power in our state. So how is that really impacting the vote?
So we took a look at that and look at this dynamic where people think that if it passes, you're going to see cities gain political power more so than lose it. But a lot of folks, and this is a lot of Republicans, a lot of people voting no on this, they feel that the suburbs or rural areas will either lose power or not change. But this lose versus gain dynamic here is really important to them. That's their concern. And if you think about it, where you look at the way the maps might be drawn, you will see some areas being shifted from district to district. That's part of the way that people, especially those no voters, are concerned about what happened or could happen, as well as the idea that it might cost the state money. That's driving a lot of the no vote, but right now they are outnumbered by the yes votes, Amy.
Well, Anthony, we want to shift gears a little bit here to immigration. So how are Californians feeling about the ongoing push for deportations as well as reforming our immigration systems?
So start with this. Start with the border, where a majority of Californian voters say they see the Trump administration's policies making border crossings go down. However, on the deportation program that you mentioned, you get majority disapproval on that. It's 60%. It's the why that's really interesting here. For one thing, people think that the administration is trying to deport more people than they had expected it to. When they feel that way, and a majority does, their disapproval of the program goes up even more among that group. And the other part of that is financial. So much of this comes back to people's pocketbooks as well. So take a look at this. People feel like the deportation program is making their local economy in California weaker. And that's important, of course, because voters always tell us that prices, that their local economy is so important, and that's part of that dynamic, Amy.
All right, Anthony, thanks so much for the insight. And of course, for more information on the special election, head to our voters guide at cbsla.com/Prop 50.